Hey, Book Baddie!
Welcome to the Bound to be Bad podcast,
a book club podcast where we discuss one book a season from the perspective of someone who's never read the book before.
And from the perspective of someone who has. This season we are so excited to be reading Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros with you.
I'm Casper, my pronouns are they, she, and I'm the first-year cadet.
And I'm Cierra, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the wing leader.
We aim to rave and rant about anything and everything that comes to mind while reading, but please note, this podcast will be discussing book spoilers as we talk about each week's chapters.
As this will be Casper's first time reading, spoilers for anything beyond the already read material is not fair game.
This podcast is run by adults who will most likely be using adult language and talking about adult themes, especially today. So please be aware of your surroundings while listening.
These thoughts and opinions are expressly our own and by no means reflect those of the original author. Reading is a privilege, books are art, and art is subjective.
That being said, we'd love for you to read along with us and share your thoughts and opinions as well.
So, without further ado, prepare to enter Basgayath War College. Let's talk about how this conversation is about to go down. First, we'll go over our newest or latest hyperfixations. This is, after all, my excuse to catch up with my bestie and force them to obsess over my obsessions too. Then, I'll provide a short and sassy summary of chapters 29 through 31. We'll give our brief, general, overall thoughts before diving into each chapter individually. Then, we'll discuss our favorite quotes or moments and any predictions for the rest of the book and series. Finally, we've got a fun little section where we've each picked a song to dedicate to each chapter. Songs that we'll compile into a public playlist that we'll update weekly for you, our fellow book baddies. Got it? Good. Now, before we dive any further, it has to be stated, this is your formal content warning. If it is awkward to talk about sex with either of us in person, this episode might not be for you. I cannot predict how explicit this conversation is going to get. At least one of us has no filter, and the other has no problem oversharing. When we both try to access that single shared brain cell, anything can happen. We appreciate your love and support, but kindly skedaddle. But before you go, be sure to rate us 5 stars on your way out, please and thank you. Now to catch up, what are you into this week?
I would like to seem like a responsible, respectable adult and say gardening, which I did start doing. No, I genuinely did go get some plants from Lowe's and also from Menards. Also, I read your warning before when I was like putting my songs in. It made me laugh very much. So this is truly your last chance.
As far as what kind of gardening things you picked up, what did you get?
Oh, so I got 8 herbs. I got sweet mint, peppermint, garden sage, English thyme, rosemary, purple basil, cilantro, and dill. And then we also got 2 packets of pumpkin seeds, and I started germinating them, and they should germinate over the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be able to plant them in the backyard, and I'm very excited about it. I've never grown my own pumpkins before. And I'm growing sugar pie pumpkins to make pumpkin pie, and I'm also growing the Halloween pumpkins. So there are two strains. The jack-o'-lantern, the actual strain name is jack-o'-lantern, and the other strain is called Casper.
Nice. I'm assuming they're white.
Yes. Not whiter than me.
I mean, there's not much that is, let's be honest.
I am translucent. You shine a light through me and you can see right through.
I believe I talked about last time that I had finished Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I have now finished Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, the second book in that series. And I just started, I'm about 15 chapters into Heat. And so reading Spark and Glow were rereads for me technically. And I was just listening to them in audio format. And this is my first time reading a book through audio that I haven't physically read with my eyeballs. And I'm finding it an interesting experience because I thought I was very much I need to physically see it in order to process. I don't know if it's just because I've had the experience of listening to Spark and Glow without following along that I've just picked up exactly where I left off. I didn't feel like I needed to, especially in fantasy books sometimes with made up names of places and people that are wild. I feel like I could hear them and still be able to possibly guess how things were spelled when I was introduced to new people, places, and things. But I'm excited. It's a chunk, or it's 75 chapters.
Oh, Lord.
Shall we get into our short and sassy summary of chapters 29 through 31?
Yeah, it's so short. Honestly, this time it is considerably shorter. I applaud you.
Thanks. I almost was going to be like, sex. Okay, let's dive into the first chapter.
That's it. That's all you need to know. It's the only important thing that happened.
Hey, Cass. You know I adore you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so shut up. We're getting into the
My
short and
bad.
sassy. Fresh off winning the first battle of War Games, Violet grapples with accepting that the first thing she did after manifesting her signet was killing Jack Barlow. Dane tries to coddle her, and Xaden gives her some tough love before Rhiannon takes her back to the Citadel, where a whole new form of guilt tugs at Violet for keeping secrets from her best friend. Later that night in her room, Xaden stops by to see Violet throwing daggers and nothing but a nightgown. Venting turns to a scalding sexual tension, as Rhys so eloquently put it, and unable to fight it anymore, Violet shows Xaden what she's got and kisses him. They start against the door, but quickly move to the desk. After a few lightning strikes, thanks to Xaden's fingers, the desk isn't the right height for the right angle, so against the armoire it is, until they break that. So they move to the curtains, but those get set on fire, so they move to the floor. Xaden loses control, taking out her throwing target with his shadows, and in the aftermath, they survey the chaos of the broken furniture all over the room. It's frighteningly perfect, until Violet notices the scars on Xaden's back. Only this time when she asks, he begins to tell her about them. After some convincing from Violet, Xaden agrees to stay the night. They clean up and slip into bed to get some sleep, but not before having an awkward don't fall for me conversation. And I roll my eyes. Professor Carr pulls Violet out of archives duty to practice wielding the next morning. Needing help, Xaden sends mental images of last night, and Taryn relentlessly teases Violet throughout the entirety of practice. It is pure gold. We start chapter 31, cleaning Violet's room the next day with Xaden. They find that their activities caused the spine of the fables to split, revealing a letter from Papa Story. I've been calling him in my notes.
Adorable.
Confused, the conversation turns to feelings, and Violet and Xaden take different sides. With a sexually heated standoff of imaginary scenarios, Violet stands her ground and kicks the aggravating man out of her room. How she had the strength to do it, the world may never know. We get mental flirting across the lunchroom, then some mental jealous banter and battle brief before Iron Squad suits up and heads to the reunification day party. Not long into arriving, Violet realizes how shitty it must be for all the marked ones today, especially Liam, as he's forced to be there because of her. Before she can convince him to leave, they are approached by Mama Sori, Melgren, and King Tari. Violet and Liam play the game well, and they seemingly leave the encounter unscathed. The terrifying trio leave to speak to Dane, and Violet learns that Liam came of his own accord. Dane leaves his conversation to immediately cup Violet's cheek, and suspiciously covers for them so they can leave. Violet takes this opportunity to seek out Xaden, and that's where we leave. So what were your general thoughts, especially as we finally reached like the spicy chapters?
Very impure.
Yes.
It's gonna be amazing if I get through this recording not just red as fuck.
It'll just start like creeping up your shoulders and your neck.
Yeah, that was spicy.
When we first started this series, you kept going on about how you were excited for the spice in the books, and because I knew how long you have to wait to get into it, and then I also know the amount of spice just overall for the rest of the book, I was just kind of like, oh, I really hope they're not going to be disappointed in the level of spice. Do you feel let down?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, that was very good. Very good job, Rebecca. I think a lot of that also comes from like how much I just enjoyed the story and the world building. If that didn't hold its own and I had to wait this long for the fucking sex to start, I don't think I would have gotten this far in the book. But I do genuinely really enjoy the world and the writing. I'm still happy with it.
I have been waiting so long to share this book with you, and it's just, you have no idea how happy I am that you're enjoying it, and we get to like talk in depth about it. I've had these feelings pent up for too long.
It's okay. I know you're in love with me.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm projecting.
That makes more sense.
God damn it. The number of straight girls I'm friends with that I'm just waiting for them to tell me they're not straight. It's two, which is not a lot, but Enough.
See, I thought the number would be more.
I'm friends with a lot of queers.
You have 2 straight friends, me and the wall.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alrighty, shall we get into chapter 29?
We haven't started yet?
No.
Oh no. Yeah.
So they've landed back on the flight field after winning the very first battle of war games. Violet is trying and failing to grapple with killing Jack, essentially. The very first thing I had is where she's talking to Taryn, and it says, "Tell me Liam is alive. Tell me it was worth it." And Taryn says, "Day says that he lives. The sword went through his side." And I was like, whew. I mean, I knew he lived, but we left off not knowing. We just knew he got caught. It wasn't certain death. So I've got overarching themes this time around that I kind of tried to follow. Essentially the entirety of this chapter leading into chapter 30. Violet trying to handle and cope with A, her first kill, B, I feel like her entire world kind of just got shifted because she viewed herself as, we'll see, she wanted to be like Brennan as far as her power set went, something that wasn't just a tool. So this very first thing I have, I'm going to jump a little bit all over this page. Bear with me.
No problem.
It says, "Killed him. I killed him." I referenced clear back in chapter 24. There's a line that says, "There's a tiny secret part of me that hopes my signet hasn't manifested yet because it's different than the others. Not only useful, but meaningful like Brennan's was." It says, "I stare up at the saddle. I need to get him out of this so he can rest too. But all I can think is that I finally have a signet, a real, true signet, and the first thing I did with it was kill a man." And then it says, "I nod, thinking of all the times I aimed for the shoulder instead of the heart. The poisons I used to incapacitate, not murder. I left Orrin unconscious on the ground at threshing and didn't even go for the throat when he invaded my room, all because I didn't want to be a killer." And all of this, I feel like, just encapsulates the amount of shock she's in, how much she didn't want to be a destructive weapon, and she feels like, for lack of a better word, like her world is turned upside down, or like who she is as a person. It's completely shocked her, like she kind of just came into her power and suddenly she's somebody new.
It shocked her.
But I also loved, so she's staring at the saddle, like she's trying to get out of it and she's trying to like take care of Taryn in this moment. And she's not navigating it well. So I don't know if I should keep tracking lightning like I was tracking it beforehand. Like that, it was all little like breadcrumbs throughout until it was the big moment. But I'm still tracking it. On this page alone, we've had 4 different mentions of lightning, or like lightning wielder, the lightning strike. This is by far the most like tracked item, I think. Overall, we're at like 49 for the book after this set of chapters of it being mentioned. It says, "My stomach heaves and a dark shadow envelops me, but it's not Zayden. Taryn has folded his wings over us, closing out the world while I retch up everything I've eaten today." I was just like, well, Dad. And I like this little paragraph because it also kind of encapsulates things I was saying, I think, last time, where it feels very much like Zayden and Taryn are very similar, and you go for people who are kind of like your parents in personality. And I just really liked that, yeah.
Yeah. I love me a Taryn. I do need me a dragon dad.
Adopt me, Daddy. That's getting cut.
Are you sure?
No.
Because I really enjoyed it.
It was just for you.
I feel so special. Okay, but you need to clip it and send it to me so I can keep it forever. Adopt me, daddy.
Beam me up, Scotty. This is where Dane tries to comfort / coddle Violet until Zayden steps in.
Yep, and that's kind of the only thing I have notes about in this kind of little scene section. Dane says, I know. He presses a kiss to the top of my head. And if you don't want to use that kind of power again, you don't have to. So infantilizing. I don't know how this is supposed to come off as comforting when he sounds like a parent trying to comfort their child after having a bad dream. It disgusts me. And fuck Dane, and I hate him. And, shut the fuck up. And also, I very much appreciate Zayden cutting him the fuck off with, get the fuck away from her with that nonsense. Because indeed, it is quite nonsense. And I love Zayden.
Would you prefer tough love in a situation like this, or would you prefer someone to just hold you through it?
I personally need, like, physical comfort first before I can process, like, anything. So yeah, being cuddled doesn't even upset me.
It's the language.
It's the language. And he kisses the top of her head. That, because it's Dane, pisses me off. If it were someone that, like, I actually didn't hate, I don't think I would feel infantilized. I just fucking hate Dane.
I just really wanted to highlight writing that I liked. So Violet says, "I killed him. Why the hell is that all I can say? I'm a broken music box, repeating the same melody over and over, and everyone can see me. Everyone knows I can't handle the consequences of my own signet. And I just really liked the broken music box imagery.
Me too.
But I think it's because I tried to collect music boxes growing up.
I love music boxes. They're so pretty.
One year, my grandparents would drive from like Cali, pick us up to visit for Camp Cousins. One of the times I was infatuated with the Anastasia music box from is it the Fox? It's an animated movie. It's not Disney.
Yeah, it's 20th century. Technically, it's Disney now.
Now, yeah. Back then. But because it was also in the cartoon, like the little music box that her necklace opened, I had turned around just like dejected. And apparently my Lolo had turned around and like got it for me.
That's so sweet.
And because we drove back across the United States, the glass panel on the inside of the lid cracked on the way back. I was like super sad about it.
It's sad.
Dan ended up buying me a replacement one.
Oh, that's really sweet too. I gotta find my Phantom of the Opera music box. It's so pretty. It plays Music of the Night, which is objectively the best song in that show.
We get more mentions of lightning, at least 2 more in this page. That brings us to 5 and 6, and a total of 25 overall. Wanted to get your thoughts. So immediately after Xaden pulls Violet out of Dane's arms, he's like, lightning, your signet is lightning, isn't it? He looks at me with such intensity, as though my answer is the key to whatever he needs. I thought so, but I wasn't sure until I saw you take that tower down. He thought so? What the hell does that even mean? Thoughts on when, I mean, it's revealed, I believe, in these chapters, but before you read them, did you have any idea what or when he would have guessed her signet?
No, because I didn't pick up on the lightning when they kissed for the first time. I was focused more on the fact that they were kissing.
Kiev.
They kiss. So yeah, I did not catch up on that until, so read these chapters, but then I went back and read chapter 22. I was like, oh, there it is. There it is. Damn, how'd I miss that?
Right? I just really loved like the little things that Xaden does, even though he's giving her tough love and saying what he thinks she needs to hear in this moment to get through. It says, he lifts one hand to stroke loose tendrils of hair behind my ear, his touch surprisingly gentle. Then says his thumb strokes over my cheek, the motion completely at odds with his tone. And his eyes flare just enough that I know he's aware of what I did. First of all, super sweet, because I'm someone who's very sensitive to tone when people talk to me. If somebody were to come at me and try to give me tough love, if they weren't doing these little actions, I wouldn't understand that it was coming from a place of love. I would be like, why are you mad at me? God damn, back the fuck up. And 2, this last part of his thumb strokes over my cheek, the motion completely at odds with his tone, and his eyes flare just enough that I know he's aware of what I did. I didn't understand this line for a while because she gets sick before Dane and Xaden shows up. I'm just not realizing he's realizing she threw up. So like, did she have some on her cheek? Is that why he's aware of it?
Oh, that's not the way I took it.
No?
Sorry. Oh, I took it as he's aware that she stops time again in order to save Liam. Because immediately after, or I guess it's not immediately after, but especially because then Rhiannon also brings up like, how did y'all move so fast? Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to like completely interrupt and derail you.
I do have something a little bit later that, so when they finally do talk before they get it on, he mentions I got sick too the first time I killed somebody. And so that's me correlating these 2 things together, but maybe not. Maybe he's just like,
I can see that too now though.
Because that happened when she was in Taryn's wings, so nobody saw it happen. Dane saw her try, but nothing came up as far as I know.
Violet is expressing, like, I don't want this. She's listing off what everyone's signets are, and she says, Rhiannon can move objects through space, and Dane has retrocognition, and he bursts in, hey. And Xaden's response of, you think I don't know that already? Like, the arrogance of this pompous idiot who thinks he's so fucking special. Like, Dane, fuck you. I get that, like, yeah, it's more classified or whatever than the others, that it's supposed to be hush-hush, but he's your fucking wing leader. Like, you think that he wouldn't know that? And then after that, I have more comments about Dane fucking coddling Vi. Dane says, you don't have to use your power, Vi. Dane starts, his voice soft and comforting. And Xaden responds, stop fucking coddling her. She's not a child. She's a full-grown woman. A writer. Start treating her like one and at least have the decency to give her the truth. And then the paragraph goes on to, elaborate that she is a strong woman And basically that's unreasonable, and that's not gonna freaking happen.
Note to that highlight was pop off, Xaden.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of my favorite parts, honestly, of just like fucking snapping at him. Like, can we please get over this? Get the fucking picture. She doesn't need you, frankly. Like, she doesn't fucking need you. She doesn't need you to protect her. She doesn't need you to coddle her. Fuck off.
But I believe it's right after. So Dane calls Xaden a cold-blooded killer. Xaden then responds, "The blood in my veins is as warm as yours, Atos. And if it's my job you want next year, then you'd better start understanding that you never get used to killing. But you do understand that it is necessary." And this just really struck me as weird. Besides the whole situation with Orin and everybody that broke into Violet's room, I was just like, we haven't really seen Xaden be a cold-blooded killer. I know he's previously said in the past that he's ruthless, and that's why Xaden and Sigel bonded. But I was like, unless this is him being hung up on Amber and he's just holding that against Xaden, I don't know. I wanted to get your kind of opinion on this. But also I'm wondering, is this part of the things Dane has a higher clearance on that he told Violet about?
That's what I'm wondering, if like there are people that like he's killed that is supposed to be like hush hush, essentially the general public doesn't know about, and thus Violet wouldn't know about. It makes me really curious to see Xaden's previous years and like to see what he went through.
Yeah. I also wrote here that Xaden's response really struck me because I feel like having to always prove your humanity to others and also yourself, because that whole line of "you're the scale I judge myself on" when they had that talk before the gauntlet must be exhausting. And I just feel bad for the guy. I would comfort you. And then I was wondering if you got the same out of this sentence that I did, because I've been really trying to focus on subtext of sentences this round for whatever reason. I don't know. That was just what my brain decided to focus on. But Zane says, "This isn't primary school. This is war. And you heard me say it once before. But the ugly truth those not on the front lines choose to forget is there are always body bags in war." I was like, when have we heard Zayden say that before? He's talking specifically to Violet. So I'm like, did he say something similar to this under the tree when she was caught listening in on like his talk with the marked ones? When has he talked about body bags in war? I'm confused. I should have looked it up, but I didn't have time.
Yeah, it's not something I necessarily caught before, and I don't have a digital copy that I can just control F, though I would if I could.
That's my best guess, because I think he gives a whole speech about how, like, it's not like the bards sing about. There's, like, it's not happy-go-lucky, this is war. To the kid that wanted to go home? Can you help me with that?
That would make sense. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to see what you thought of that as well. Just, Sigale is right, and signets reflect who we are at our core. That I'm exactly as Zayden nicknamed me, Violence. I was like, this is the proof that, like, him calling her Violence is him seeing a side of her that she never acknowledged before. And so, it is, I don't know. I love that he sees all of her.
Yeah, me too.
And then my very last one. So Claire back and says, "Everyone has a signet that isn't just useful for battle. They're tools for good in the world. And what the hell am I, Xaden? I'm a fucking weapon." Then his response is, "You are not just a weapon, Sorengale. You are the weapon. You train this ability, own it, and you'll have the power to defend an entire kingdom." And I was like, it's technically one of my favorites, but I had to say it here just because it's kind of all over the place. I also love when people like refer to other people's conversations in future conversations, because it's like, oh, you processed and you understood and you can say it back to me. And maybe that's just from how I grew up and how I had to like talk back to my parents. But I love, like, I don't know, it just shows like, hey, I was listening and I'm here for you. Also, it just shows like you're smart because you can remember when I can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. So
I do have a habit of forgetting what I have said while
as
I'm
you're
saying it.
Rhiannon walks Violet back to the Citadel, and Taryn comforts, but then prevents Violet from like giving away dragon secrets. I was feeling some type of way when I was taking these notes when it comes to Liam, so just be warned. Xaden turns to leave, but pauses. "Thank you for saving Liam. He's important to me." And I was like, he's important to me too. That's my son.
Son!
There's a lot of weird me pretending to be his mom in this episode. I'm forewarning you. I don't know why. It was just a bit that I kept going with in my head. So then I really like where Taryn kind of gives her the pep talk. Was that a favorite?
Yeah.
So I can skip it.
Yeah, but go ahead, because like I said, I have a lot of favorites.
Okay. So I don't really have anything other than there's a specific line in this that kind of made me chuckle. So Taryn urges, "Go, but do not wallow in guilt, Silver One. Whatever you feel is natural. Allow yourself to feel it, but then let it go." The wing leader made a valid point. With a signet like that, you are the best hope the kingdom has against the hordes of evil that seek to harm it. Rest, and I will see you tomorrow. I'll get my own saddle off. It's like, hordes of evil, okay? You're a little archaic. Like, I think he's like 150 or whatever, 100. I don't remember how old he is. He's over 100. He's in the triple digits.
Damn.
Right? Sometimes just the way he speaks about things makes me giggle because I'm like, the hordes of evil. Like, okay, Grandpa. That was the only reason why I highlighted that.
Hordes will just always automatically make me think zombies.
Oh,
And I mean, we already have like griffins and dragons and wyverns, so why not zombies?
just add them in, throw them in, like Game of Thrones, White Walker situation
Yeah.
or something, you know?
Surely someone has to have a signet that raises the dead, okay? Give me a little necromancy here.
I wonder, I imagine that'd be like treading on Malik territory or something. I don't know how the gods really play into this though, so no.
Yeah, that's we haven't really heard too much about them. Which makes me all the more curious.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the lore.
So it says, now guilt bites into me for a whole other reason. Rhiannon is my friend, my closest one here if I'm being honest about what Dane and I have become. Of everyone, she should know. And then she gets cut off. But I was just like, Dane got demoted.
Fuck Dane.
Also, Violet is just someone who lives her truth. She's not good at lying or keeping secrets and doesn't really know how to handle when others do that to her. I'm like, oh, this is me. I am not good at either of these things. I've got a little bit of a quote that I was like, damn, this really fucked with her. The quote is, and I can't help but wonder if somewhere, on some plane of existence, Malik sits on his throne, angry that I stole a soul from his grasp. But then again, I gave him Jack's. Of course, it might have broken mine forever. It's like, oh,
That's deep. That's a wound.
Mm-hmm. So we had 2 more mentions of lightning on this page. That's 7 and 8 in this episode already, leaving us at 27 total for the book. Then Xaden knocks on the door and she says, come in. Who cares if I'm in nothing but my dressing gown? And I was just like, because I completely forgot that we were at that point in the story. So like, as soon as I was like, oh, someone's going to see her in a dressing gown, I was like, oh, the spice. It's
How
happening.
many times have you read this now?
Honestly, too many to count. But because I'm also like doing other things while I'm reading or listening or like, you know, I think also I get so caught up or hyper fixated on a specific aspect I'm looking for as I'm like deep diving sometimes that I forget to just like pull out and see the bigger picture. Pull out. And then I don't know, sometimes I'm present and sometimes I'm not apparently when I'm reading. That's all. I have logistics questions in this chapter for you because I have always pictured this scene completely differently than apparently it is.
Oh.
It's just when he walks in and sees her. For some reason, I thought she was throwing daggers from her bed, and we'll get there when we get there. I don't think it's on this page exactly. Don't think so. But it's when he like finally steps forward, and it's like he takes 2 steps, and suddenly he's up against her, and I was like, I thought she was on her bed. How small is this room? Like, I'm so confused. Then I realized, oh, no, dummy, she was standing in the middle of her room throwing at a target. Like, okay, I understand now.
I mean, to be fair, it seems like if there is enough room for her to be standing in the middle of the room and like throwing daggers at a target, it is definitely bigger than like a normal college dorm, which is the only thing I would have to compare it to, which is how I would like have pictured it. And the fact that she has one by herself at all, fancy fucking college, man, Jesus.
Also, when we get to the reunification day, we're back in July and we started this book in July. And so like they never really go home. They don't leave. It's like you go to college and you stay there for 3 years kind of a thing. So I imagine, especially also with how often people die, they can afford to have bigger rooms because they don't actually have as many cadets.
That's a good point you have there.
It's just like calling out anytime Violet was being purposefully avoidant of their feelings. It says, then my body reminds me exactly what it feels like to have his mouth on mine, and my stomach flutters. Shit, I'm too on edge to deal with him or the way he makes me feel tonight. Zayden says, imagining that's me. And I just wrote, oh, honey bear, she's not thinking about the target. But yeah, she's imagining you all right.
Yeah.
Then her response was, no, but it was you about 20 minutes ago. I was like, get it, sassy, bye. I essentially just want to be Violet in his scene. She's so badass. Sex scenes withstanding. It's her hitting consistently the target without looking. I'm just like,
I can't hit a target to save my goddamn life.
we had 2 more mentions of lightning on 368. So that brings us up to 10 for this section. It's the whole like keeping my eyes locked on his. I fling the dagger at the target. The satisfying sound of split wood tells me I hit true. Zayden responds, fuck, that's hotter than it should be. I just wrote, damn, I want to be her.
Okay, so I had two things on this page. So in that same paragraph, but like just a couple lines before, I had myself a tiny little prediction, like, oh, there's a little foreshadowing. And do you think it works inside? Like, bitch, we're about to find out. And then, yeah, my second one was the fuck, that's hotter than it should be. That thought goes through my brain far too often.
Zayden says, from what I witnessed today, you don't need saving. There's pure longing in his eyes as he scans the length of my body from my bare toes to the hemline that skirts my thighs, over my breasts, and to my neck, finally reaching my eyes. I quoted a line clear back from chapter 9, where he says, defenseless women have never been my type. I was like, and what are you saying right now? That she doesn't need saving? That she's maybe far from defenseless? Does that mean maybe you want to bone her?
Yes, I know it.
I know it. Especially because we just read it and we know they do.
See, I know these things. I'm really good at predicting them. I knew as soon as they started fucking that they were gonna fuck.
It's like telling the weather on Mean Girls.
Yeah. There's a 40% chance that it's already raining.
It says he pushes off the door and takes a single step, closing the distance between us, and lifts my braid from over my shoulder, slowly rubbing his thumb along the strands. I was like, why did I think she was throwing knives from her bed? I was so confused. Like, damn, this room is tiny. That was the note. It says, I'm mad that him dying changes me. And I just liked this line because it was very succinct, especially with like the overall theme of this chapter with her world essentially being turned upside down by this event. I was like, also a very valid point. I would also be viscerally upset.
Because, like, Zayden got a valid point. Well, and she has a valid point. She likely did save other people from being murdered by Jack.
I've got a few lines here. It says, Dane told me that this place strips away the niceties to reveal who someone really is. And I just keep thinking that when I was younger, I asked my dad what would happen if I wanted to be a writer like Mom or Brennan. And he told me that I wasn't like them, that my path was different. Except this place has peeled away my civility, my niceties, and it turns out my power is more destructive than any of theirs. And I loved both of these because they're both callbacks. And I was like, yeah, callbacks. Call back to like what Dana told her, but then also a callback to the dream that she had. It does turn out that that was like a memory. I believe like this is confirming because that's exactly the dream she had, was her asking like, but what if I want to be a writer? And I liked that both of these callbacks worked together. She took two different points in this overall year that she had that were like really impactful to her, and it found it beautifully worked together to give validity to Violet's breakdown. Like, it's really smart and intentional writing, especially in like a pre-smut scene. It shows that what Rebecca is writing is with purpose. Like, she wouldn't have had her have this dream, and she wouldn't have had Dane told her that specific phrase for them both not to have impacted her overall breakdown here now. Like, I really enjoy Rebecca Yarros' writing. She kind of just goes off, and I apparently had a lot to say about it. It says, signets are based on the rider, just fueled by the dragon, which means that this has always been there under the surface, just waiting to be unleashed. And to think, all this time, I had this tiny driving hope that I would be like Brennan, and that would be the twist in my little fable, that my signet would be mending, and I could put all the broken things back together. But instead, I'm made to split them apart. I was like, hey, written so beautifully. The whole like, my little fable, her loving that Baron of the Fables, broken things and then splitting them. Like, I like all that juxtaposition. Her style of writing is so like straightforward and succinct, but also still allows room for beauty without being overly lyrical or purple prosy, and I love it. Really draws you in. It's easy to read and digest, and then suddenly she hits you with these lines. But to each their own. There's a time and place for lyrical stories. I want to get into, this is a tangent, there's a book called When the Moon Hatched, but it's a brick of a book, and the entire thing is just very lyrical writing. And I feel like I have to access a different part of my brain to read that kind of writing style that I don't access often, and so therefore I get intimidated by the book, even though I've heard great things about it. So for me, time and place, because I like to read for fun, and that just means I have to activate a part of my brain that I don't use often. I'll get to it one day. That day is just not today.
Feel that, yeah. It's one of the reasons that, like, while I love Shakespeare and I love reading Shakespeare, like, it takes a time and place for me to read Shakespeare because it takes a lot of brain power for me to process what is being said and the intention and the meaning and the subtext. It's a lot.
I was that nerd in middle school that carried around a little like pocket-sized Romeo and Juliet. Like, I love lyrical or just even like, especially the books like classics. I freaking used to carry around Count of Monte Cristo after having watched the movie in high school. until my sister borrowed it and had a broken backpack, and we walked home in the rain and then the book cover. But that's another thing that Dan ended up buying for me as I
Aw,
got older.
that was
I have
really
to find
sweet.
it. I don't know where it is. It's like the Barnes & Noble like leatherback
Of those
collector ones.
ones.
She thinks, how many people will I kill with this? Zayden's eyes soften. As many as you choose. Just because you gained power today doesn't mean you lost agency. I notice love a man who supports a woman's agency.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. So Violet brings up the whole none of you, the marked ones, wanted to be here. Zayden then says, it's not the same for you. You wanted a quiet life full of books and facts. You wanted to record the battles, not be in them. There is nothing wrong with you. You get to be angry that you killed a man today. You get to be angry that man tried to kill your friend. You get to feel however you want within these walls. And so I was wondering, A, how do you take this, I guess, response? And B, because I find on a reread that it can come off a little bit like Violet's throwing a bit of an ungrateful fit for not being as special as she could be when she's been special her whole life, and Zayden just reaffirming how special she is because she's the main character of the book, which fair, valid, like you literally are the main character. So that's
Yeah, I can definitely see it being somewhat of him releasing his frustration of like, because they are the marked ones, they have to stay composed and they can't express like more negative feelings and negative emotions without making people wonder, like, are they starting something? Are they, are
are they
they
being
going to
called
snap?
cold-blooded killers?
Yeah, are they going to fucking murder us all? And him especially has to stay very composed because he is responsible for them and he is the oldest and he has to set a good example. And that's why he had this meeting under the tree with all of the new first years and things like that. Like, he's the one they all look to. So if he loses it, it's
Also, I don't know if we're on the same page with my question.
okay.
Do you see it as her throwing a fit at all? Because I guess you're kind of going into Zayden's POV with it, and my question was more Violet oriented.
I get you. I get you. I can kind of see it as her like throwing a fit because, yeah, main character syndrome. And yeah, everyone tells her she's so special all of the time. And Zayden as well. And even like within the context of this conversation. But at the same time, like, I think she's justified.
Yeah.
And at least in this scenario, she's justified in being upset with what just happened. But there is that little part of me that's like, you're gonna have to kill people. Like, there's no escaping it. You are not going to survive without, like, look at where you are. Maybe you didn't expect it to be so, like, one-on-one, more personal kind of thing, but this was gonna happen. I don't know.
Gotcha. I just didn't know. I know it can be a big detractor from a story if the main character is a little too aware of how main character they are. So I didn't know if this read very main character or if it was more so like, for me, when I read this, it only took me just now to realize that he's like reaffirming her specialness in this scene. Because as the reader, you read as Violet, and it's just like he's saying that to you. And maybe I just like hearing those things. And so it took me till now to realize, like, oh, he's just affirming for her. And what? I'm okay with it because I'm gonna pretend like he's saying it to me.
That's valid. I don't think I've been able to like really put myself in Violet's perspective quite as much as like I don't think I've related with her quite as much as I know that you have. You've also read it more times, so like you've had more time to bond with her. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you obviously any way that you take it is valid.
Yeah, it says, he takes hold of my hands and brings them to his chest. So do whatever you need to get it out. You want to yell? Yell at me. You want to hit something? Hit me. I can take it. And my note was just, I would kiss him too. Are you kidding with lines like this? God damn.
If you want me to hit you, honey, I'll hit you. Whew, spicy. I will warn you, I have bad aim.
Alrighty. You ready to get into the spice?
Spicy.
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 I saw you reacted to my summary line of brown chicken, brown cat.
Yeah, because it was funny. And because at first I was like, what? And then it took me a second to understand what the like, oh, like I had to say it out loud. Like, I felt silly.
In my notes, I also will do like a summary of the scene on the side, and literally for this almost the entirety of this chapter, I just wrote bow chicka bow wow. So then when I went to put it into the summary in our shared Google Doc, I was like, I don't the dad humor that resides somewhere within my being came out, and I was like, brown chicken, brown cow. Alrighty, chapter 30. I wanted to know. So after we leave off on Violet kissing Xaden, how did the epigraph of chapter 30 make you feel before reading the chapter?
But like, if it's not forbidden, why put it in there, you know? Like, what does it matter?
It also says strong romantic attachments. As far as we know, this could have just been like a hookup.
That's true, but let's be real. We know that's not happening.
True.
They might not know how the other feels. They might not even understand how they feel, but we, the audience, know. We have already known.
Probably bring up the epigraph later because I think I have it tied to another point I want to make a couple of pages later. But I just wanted to get your initial thoughts of reading it. If it gave you kind of insight at all, but that makes sense, like knowing that they're our main pair.
And also, like, it's not even the little things, and I'm pretty sure she even points it out later in, I don't think it's this chapter, I think it's the next chapter, for pointing out, like, he wouldn't do this, that, and the other for me if he didn't care. Like, I've been seeing it. I know, I'm observant. So my first one is a favorite line. A lot of them in this chapter are just favorite lines. So I'll go with which is still kind of like a favorite part, but it's like, I actually have notes written for it. Vi's kissing him, okay? And he's like, hey, yo, I am the last thing that you need.
What's this accent?
I don't know, okay? I don't know. He says, I'm telling you that I am the last thing you need.
That's the one I sent you.
Yeah. And Violet says, are you suggesting someone else? I love confident, flirty, fucking sassy, fucking ballsy Vi.
But also a little bit toxic because she's trying to provoke jealousy in him in this moment. And I wrote for this line, because it's also a favorite of mine, I wrote, I fucking love jealous tropes in books. I love it. I don't care that it's toxic. Talk to a wall if you hate this trope. I love it.
I get it. Like, in a complete, I'm okay with it because it's fiction and not in my real life kind of thing. Like, yes.
I've really liked this line that says, I want to replace the anger with lust, the death of the day with the pulse-pounding assurance of my own life. I was like, valid. Also, trying to tell her what she wants? Pfft. Xaden.
Daddy, no.
And then it says, there's a war in his eyes that I'm determined to win. I was like, there's just something powerful about this line. I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't know what about it. I'm just like, yes.
No, I feel you. That was one of my favorites for this. That was my first favorite of the chapter of many. But yeah, I don't know. There's something really powerful and like confident in it. And yeah, maybe slightly toxic. Again, it's in a fantastical romantic setting, okay? It's a fantasy. It is a romantasy in more than one way, and it's fine.
Also, I don't think of some of the real toxic lines that we'll get throughout this series. This is the least.
Yeah, this one's really not that bad.
There are worse ones, for sure. So I really like this line where it says, I can see that infamous control of his hovering on the edge, balancing precariously on the point of a knife. All he needs is one little push, and I'm about to shamelessly shove. And I was just like, the writing, the tension. This is just perfection.
Yes, I love that line so much. It says, he bites my earlobe, and my core liquefies, going molten. And for my notes, I just went, relatable.
I just wanted to point out, Xaden tries to, I guess, pull away, or he's like really trying to make sure Violet's A-okay with this. He says, I'm trying to do the honorable thing and not take advantage of you after you've had a shit day. And I wrote, and this is why we love him. Now, fuck.
Exactly.
So Xaden says he doesn't know if he'd be able to stop if he really got his hands on her. She says, he would. I know it in my soul. That's why I trust him with my body. My heart, it isn't playing into this decision. And I just wrote, oh, honey, you're already gone. And this was like the epigraph tie-in where it's like strong connections. I'm like, you just refuse to accept it.
She's getting there, though. Like,
True.
She makes a pretty good amount of growth in a short amount of time.
Violet is very emotionally intelligent in these next set of chapters.
I appreciate that about her.
Yeah, it's so refreshing. That's one thing I love about Violet is she is smart in a multitude of ways.
It's very refreshing because I feel like, yeah, the especially because most of the like romance or like love stories that I've read have been mostly like in my teenhood and like young adult fiction, Sarah Dessen, things like that, where the female protagonist, or not even exclusively the female protagonist, but like the romantic interests are so like oblivious to these very obvious signs that it's really frustrating and sometimes really difficult to maintain the suspension of disbelief when it's like, okay, this is a little heavy handed.
Like, how much of it is the author beating a specific topic over the head, and how much of it is like them just not valuing their readers' intelligence?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of mentions of lightning in 375. Two specifically that I found. That brings us up to 12 overall in this episode. So this is just something I see a lot of this imagery in a lot of romantic books, but I eat it up every time, and I love it. It says, releasing that tight coil of tension in a burst of sparks at the edge of my vision, breaking me into a million scattered stars. I just thought that was pretty, and while not necessarily original, because I do see similar imagery in a lot of sex scenes in romantic books, I still love it.
I mean, I feel like there's only so many ways you can poetically write about someone having an orgasm without just straight up saying they had an orgasm. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, and it's still really pretty.
Oh, so I think I've brought this up with you before, where she says, I take the fertility suppressant.
Yep, that's my note for this part too. I love that there's like an in-universe form of birth control, and that within the context of like they're about to have sex, that they're discussing that like healthy adults should do.
I brought this up again because I've heard multiple people get pulled out whenever they hear this kind of line. And usually they're people who are a little bit older, not crazy old, like people who have most likely probably already had experiences in their life, like what's happening currently in this chapter. And because this book series is a new adult book for ages 18 and up, that's such a wide range of ages for you don't know like who your reader is. Like they may or may not be somebody who's never had a sexual experience before. And so I think having moments like this, while I can understand if it takes you out of the story or out of the moment, I think it's really important to keep in because not everybody has a good upbringing where they know how to take care of themselves or know what they should be asking or looking for in sexual experiences. And having healthy reminders, even in a fantasy setting, might be their first time like experiencing any kind of, you know.
Yeah. No, having that representation of like, hey, this is what a healthy sexual scenario looks like, where you're being smart and you're talking about, birth control, testing, whatever, like that's healthy for anyone at any age. Like, I don't care. Look, it's not just the young people who need to hear it.
True.
But yeah, I think it's a good reminder for everyone of any age.
Agreed. Also, it's a good way for the author to just be like, hey, you can cross off the baby getting pregnant trope. It ain't happening in the story. You
That
don't have to
too.
worry about it because that can be triggering for some people. Like, it's better to lay it out like nothing's going to come of this other than they're just both going to find their pleasure. And that's also very valid. Like,
Hell yeah.
this sexual encounter's a little bit awkward. Like, they can't quite find the right position. This line specifically says, this position is shit. He's considerably taller than the desk. And if I wasn't so desperate for him, I'd laugh. And I love that it's not perfect because sometimes it can be glossed over or like, I think some people like to try to wax poetically about sex in some scenes. They try to over romanticize it. And this just makes their encounter feel real and more believable because it's not going to be that way every time, even with somebody that you may or may not have had more than one sexual encounter with. A bit bumbly, especially with a new partner, you're both figuring things out as you're going.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it as well because you're gonna have those awkward moments probably pretty regularly.
Normalize.
Yes. For myself, I didn't have like sexual encounters until I was in my early 20s. And the most like exposure that I had to sex was in media, was in books, was in TV and movies. When it's supposed to be good and like super romantic, it is always made to look like this perfect, like flowing, beautiful experience that or like if it's just supposed to be hot, it's like nothing wrong happens. Like you're always in the perfect position and no one ever farts. Like it gave me an idea of like what sex should be like and like this expectation that when those encounters didn't live up to that expectation, there are still times where I have to combat that and my insecurities of that in my head because it makes me feel bad about myself. Like, oh God, now it's awkward. Like, man, that can kill a boner. If you let it, if you have this idea of like what sex is supposed to be like every time you have sex, but then when you realize, like, no, this is the kind of stuff that happens, it makes it, I don't know, lost train of thought. Where am I going with this? I'm going to stop talking now. Normalize awkward sexual encounter.
Because it feeds the Delulu, the good Delulu, that sexual encounters can be awkward, and most of them will be, and it's totally fine, and that doesn't take away from the moment. And I wrote, come for the fantasy, stay for the relationships.
Yes. Where my little prediction is.
What's your prediction?
I don't think even this is even the first time Xaden has said this, but in this context it is of telling Violet, you're going to be the death of me.
What is the first time? Because this is the start of me tracking it.
Okay, well then it's the first time. I swear there was like, I'm crazy, who knows?
He says it twice this section.
He does, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting that feeling too. Don't like that. I do not like that.
It's something he will repeatedly say throughout the series, hence why I've started tracking it now. And I was like, this scares me. And I refuse to accept that Xaden could possibly die for any reason.
Yeah, exactly. Rebecca.
I was joking with Dan earlier. Yesterday, I think. I was like, I feel like every time we curse Rebecca's name, that we're just giving her more power. She's like siphoning a little bit of creative energy every time we yell, Rebecca.
And thus, she owes it to us to not do this to us.
In interviews, she calls it informed consent after you've read the first book. And I'm just like,
I don't like that. Xaden says to Violet, tell me you're all right. And I just love that he's checking in with her, like making sure he still has consent.
Mentally.
And yeah, mentally on top of that, like fucking hot. It's just so good. Again, it's that representation, that like reinforcing, like, this is what a healthy sexual experience looks like. We are maintaining consent. We are checking in. We're talking about healthy practices. It's so good. I love it. I just love it.
This line states, the armoire door groans, then splinters off the hinges, and Xaden's shadows whip out, protecting me as the frame snaps, and wood crashes around us. I highlighted clear back in chapter 18 when he breaks into her room because Taryn calls for him when Oren and the other unbondeds are attacking. It says, my bedroom door flies open, the wood splintering as it slams against the stone wall. I was like, this isn't the first time he's broken things upon entering her room.
Oh my.
And it won't be the last.
Certainly not.
Certainly not. 3 different instances of lightning being referenced on this page. So that brings us up to 15 times so far in this section. This is the start of me tracking whenever this isn't the start. Something clear back in chapter 16 that I didn't mention until now because I didn't want to take away from this chapter for you. Holding on to him like he's the only thing anchoring me to the earth. Besides the death of me, gravity, or any kind of like reference to that, are things that both Violet and Xaden say to each other a lot throughout the series. And so this is the second instance of it. The first time was clear back in chapter 16, when she realizes for the first time, after having bonded Taryn, that Xaden's not going to kill her. She says, Xaden's not going to kill me. The realization makes my chest tighten, makes me re-examine everything that happened in that field. makes my sense of gravity shift beneath my feet. Like, he is her world, her sense of gravity, and he thinks she's gonna kill him.
See.
Yep.
Woo!
But that's the first and only time this set of chapters, but the second time overall in the book, that gravity has been mentioned in reference to Satan. But that's another thing, though. They can never have Wyatt sex because
Honest.
if they both lose their powers every time,
Right? Like, is it gonna be an every single time thing? Because goddamn, y'all need to like go find a house and a field and stay away from villages. Maybe not a field. That would be a lot of fires. Just stay out of the forest and probably the mountains. Desert. Go to the desert. You can bang all you want.
we get another reference to lightning. This is the 16th time so far this section. It says, bracing his weight on one arm and brushing my hair back from my face with the other. The move is so gentle, so at odds with what we've just experienced that I can't help but blink, then smile. And while this is really sweet, it's also the same kind of verbiage she used in chapter 29 when he was giving her the tough love talk, but like being gentle with her physically. And I thought that was beautiful, like to bring that same, carry it over from one chapter into this one. Consistent. I liked it. It says that he grimaces after admitting that he destroyed her throwing target. He's like, I'll get you a new one. You can tell Zayden is somebody who prides himself on his control, and so the fact that he lost it and it makes him physically grimace to himself, I'm just like, tell me your type A personality without telling me your type A personality.
For real.
Poor guy. And Violet's like, I didn't even get the man's pants off entirely. And my dressing gown is haphazardly hanging from one shoulder. Zayden finishes the sentence, frighteningly perfect. He cups the side of my face. We should get you cleaned up and to sleep. We can worry about your room tomorrow. Ironically, your bed is the only thing we didn't wreck. I just wrote, stop! Even with like the awkwardness, they stuck the landing, pun intended.
Yes.
It's just very cute and the being caring afterwards. So I appreciate this representation of like, hey, aftercare is a thing. And it's important too.
It is very important.
It says, I reach out and trace the dragon relic on his back, my fingers lingering on the raised silver scars, and he stiffens. They're all short, thin lines, too precise to be a whip. No rhyme or reason to their pattern, but never intersecting. This is another one of those ones where I kind of have several that are just jumping around the page, so I'm sorry if this is confusing.
That's fine.
But then he opens up about there's 107 of them, because that's how many kids are under the age of majority that carry a rebellion relic. And then he reveals, I saw the opportunity to make a deal, he says softly, and I took it. Violet asks, what kind of deal leaves you with scars like that? Zayden replies, the kind where I take personal responsibility for the loyalty of the 107 kids the rebellion leaders left behind. And in return, we're allowed to fight for our lives in the Riders' Quadrant instead of being put to death like our parents. I chose the chance of death over the certainty. And I was just like, lore drop. But also, I wanted to hear your thoughts on him taking responsibility in a physical, like, reminder, having to sit there and get, sounds like maybe a knife if it's not a whip.
It definitely left me with a lot of questions. I'm very intrigued. The main questions being, did he volunteer for this? Like, was this something that was offered to him as like, hey, I mean, well, just what it says. Like, did someone else come up with this idea? If so, like, why was he the one chosen? Like, I'm assuming it's because he was the oldest of them. Like, is that correct?
Yes, he is the oldest.
Okay. But he clearly isn't giving us a whole lot of story of the backstory here. But like, I can't say that I'm surprised that he would do this, because like, he's never seemed like a selfish character to me, and he has already demonstrated that he cares about the other like marked ones, and has taken a level of responsibility for them. It makes me love him even more, but it's something I kind of already, not that specifically, but like, lost train of thought.
This might get you back on the topic, because if I go back up to the 8th paragraph here, it says, they don't look accidental. Someone hurt him deliberately, maliciously, and it makes me want to hunt the person down and do the same to them. Thoughts on like, who could have done this to him? Because I'm imagining he can't do it to himself.
Right. It's definitely something that someone did to him, and I'm curious to, the rhyme and reason behind that. Obviously, I understand the like, they're very clearly into leaving marks as a reminder. So like that doesn't really surprise me. But why are they so random? But they like yeah, what I just had something occur to me. Part of me is thinking it was probably her mom who did it because we have been told that there, especially by Dane, that there are other reasons that she would want or that Xaden would hate her mom and like want her dead. She's in charge mostly, especially it seems like considering the marked ones, and then especially considering that his father is the one who killed her son. It would make
Like a
sense
vengeful
for
thing.
yeah, for her to like be the one taking vengeance on doing that on him. And then it made me wonder if that's why she had that tearish dagger on her death. That literally just occurred to me while my train of thought was a running. Yep. So live moment there, folks.
So we'll meet her again in this section of chapters. She's always surrounded by other people in power, but it seems almost like she kind of takes charge in every situation, even when there's the king of the continent there. And so I'm interested to see what you think of that chapter when we get there. But I like where your brain is going.
Sometimes that brain cell just gets a spark going.
I was wondering it because I know you don't like Melgren, and we don't know too much about King Tari. We've only met Dane's dad briefly. As far as like people who are fairly high up, I feel like those are, unless I'm forgetting somebody, those are like the highest people we know of at the moment. So I didn't know. I was gonna ask if you had come up with somebody. Like, do you think any of these people would have?
Yeah, definitely her mom. Definitely Mama Sorry. Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty confident in it. It's my prediction.
We'll have to see if it comes true. So, because I jumped all over the place, I gotta make sure I'm in the right spot. It says, he brushes my hair back, and the look that passes over his face is so close to tender that it makes my heart stutter. I was just like, that's really sweet. I love that. I love when people play with my hair, when people brush or do my hair, when people move my hair behind my ear. I love all that stuff. So, anytime it happens in the book, I'm just like, swim. This is where Violet convinces Aiden to stay for the night, and they do a bit of cleaning up, and then they have this very first paragraph. Violet's thinking the cruelty of the offer and the sacrifice he made to save the others hits like a physical blow. I cradle his cheek and guide his face back to mine. I can't imagine hearing that somebody I care for have to like if I were to hear of any physical harm in that nature, like I couldn't. It would not go down as well as Violet takes it. That's for sure.
I feel that.
Made my heart hurt hearing it. Still in that same like line of thought. Violet then says, so if any of them betray Navarre, talking about the kids that he's responsible for, he then says, then my life is forfeit. The scars are a reminder. I was just like, damn, this is heavy. It's especially a heavy topic to have immediately after sex. But then it also makes me kind of proud because like he still feels like he can be open with you after sex when Xaden isn't somebody who's open about anything on a good day. So it's just like, hey, this is progress.
It also left me with another question of, so if that were to happen, if any of them were to betray Navarre, he's getting killed, obviously, but then would they go ahead and kill the rest of the marked ones too?
I don't know. I'm
'Cause
assuming.
I kind of feel like they would.
I mean, I could see Navarre going behind his back. Like, when it sounds like the purpose of the deal is that his life for theirs. So if any of them do, he would be the one that would die in order for them to keep living. But yeah, I can see Navarre just being like, well, now that you're gone, I guess don't have to keep this deal no more. And I kill them too. But yeah, no, that's a good call. I never thought about that. I'm not sure. I would like more information on this, but alas, we do not get that right. And then she says, I'm so sorry that happened to you, especially when he wasn't the one who led the rebellion. He looks at me like he sees into the very depths of who I am. You have nothing to apologize for. It's like the way he looks at her, like he literally probably never hears I'm sorry, especially from anybody who associates with Navarre. And so to have somebody be willing to listen, be so compassionate and not judge him in this moment, be kind of refreshing. She throws back words at him that he used earlier. And she says, when did I ever give you the impression that I give a fuck what people think? I used his earlier words against him. And I was like, I'm gonna call this out. They're getting into bed. And he's like, only within these walls. Thoughts on this conversation they're about to have? Because I have a few, and I would like to hear yours first.
Are we talking about the don't fall for me trope? I have mixed feelings. Firstly, it reminds me of A Walk to Remember. Have you seen A Walk to Remember?
Yes, but I don't remember this being a part of that.
Oh, Mandy Moore, geeky church girl.
But I thought that was because he had
She has cancer. So she tells him, sorry, spoilers for like a
really old
some-year-old
movie.
movie. She tells him because she agrees to like tutor him or whatever, something like that. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But she tells him like, you just have to promise that you won't fall in love with me. And he's like, whatever, I'm this cool guy. You're a fucking weirdo. I'm not going to fall in love with you. Bam, boom, ha. He falls in love with her and then she has cancer and dies. So that trope will always make me think of that. And because I love that movie so much, it gives me like kind of a nostalgic, fond feeling. But
completely forgot she gave him that ultimatum.
I also find it pretty cheesy and overdramatic, and it also kind of pisses me off because you don't get to dictate how other people feel.
And I feel like in that, if we're comparing that example specifically to this scene, it feels a little bit different because if I remember right, Mandy Moore's character knew she already had cancer when they met. So like saying it to protect or whatever. In this instance, he doesn't say it in a way like, this is to protect you. It's more of a, I'm not good, don't fall for me kind of a thing. Like, I'm not sweet. And he's like, you only get hurt. So I guess, I don't know. And maybe it is more similar to that trope, but I feel like from what we know right now, Violet's standpoint, it's kind of like, this seems off base. Like, if you're just wanting me to protect myself from getting hurt.
I mean, considering he has very much been she doesn't need protecting, at least physically, like, yeah, you have a point there.
I don't know. Yeah, it rubs me the wrong way because I don't understand it. I think that's my issue. Not necessarily a book issue.
No, I get that. For me, it definitely, I think it feels partially like he's trying to protect her, but mostly because he's trying to protect himself. Knowing that like he's not emotionally able to handle whatever's going on. And I mean, maybe I'm reading into it based off of other past media that uses this trope of knowing because I'm the bad boy, I'm gonna hurt you because I'm feeling hurt, like kind of thing.
Yeah, and you saying that triggered why I find it annoying. I think it's because I find it utterly selfish. Because, like, while yes, both of these people have to consent to giving their hearts in the situation, trying to control somebody else so that way you don't feel heartbroken. I'm not going to be able to phrase this in any coherent way right now. But you can't control somebody else to protect yourself. It's manipulative in a way that I find a little gross. But I kind of just overlook it because it's like,
Paperman can do anything.
right? It's okay that Paperman's a little fucked up.
Look, he's broken too. We're all a little bit broken.
That we are. But also, there's so many mixed signals within this that I want to highlight. So he says, only within these walls. She then quotes back the whole, only within these walls, we're writers after all, line that he had mentioned before they started getting it on. And he's like, I just don't trust my temper if anyone says. She silences him by brushing a kiss over his mouth. Says, I know what you're saying. It's sweet. He then nips at her skin. I'm not sweet. Please don't mistake any part of me for soft or kind. That will only get you hurt. And whatever you do, he buries his face in my neck, inhaling deeply. Don't fall for me. I'm like, which is it, my guy? Because you're acting real romantic right now, but your words say another thing.
I think that's what really kind of like irritated me was like, this is it's such a red flag of like simultaneously, it is both like love bombing while directly stating, hey, no, you can't do this. Don't have feelings for me while I'm doing these things that like any logical person would interpret as I have feelings for you. So fuck you, Zayden. You get one fuck you.
So immediately after the don't fall for me line, it says, I stroke my hand over his marked arm and pray that's not exactly what I'm doing. This overwhelming juxtaposition of longing and satisfaction in my chest has to be the after effects of coming not once, but 3 times, right? It can't be more. And I just put the emoji of like the straight lipped, like, girl, you're already gone and you know it.
Silly, silly Violet.
Silly, silly. There's also 2 mentions of lightning on this page in the same paragraph, like at the very, very end. The infinite black sky I counted because it calls back to the I am infinite line that she has before releasing the lightning. So that's 18 total for this section so far. She asks, why did you guess I could wield lightning? Well, I didn't put a note next to that, but it says he stretches just enough to tuck my head under his chin. I thought you did it the first night Taryn channeled power to you, but I wasn't sure. so I didn't say anything. His arms tighten around me as he tucks me closer, the backs of my thighs pressed tight against his pants as I start to drift off. The first time you kissed me. After she asks when. I was just like, okay, this makes up only a little bit for you being an ass, like literally 3 seconds ago. Just a little bit.
Tiny bit. So Violet has woken up. Zayden's gone. She says she's not really surprised by that. She's surprised by the fact that he actually stayed the night. Also, there's a pun there. She says, now that was the shocker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't catch that one, I don't think.
She is also surprised that he has left on her nightstand a jar with a handful of spring violets. She says, my heart swells. I'm in so much fucking trouble. What?
In my background, elevation, fake violets.
But yeah, this kind of goes back to the, what the fuck do you mean don't fall for me? And then you're gonna leave violets on my nightstand? Go fuck yourself. The fuck are you playing at?
Exactly.
Foolish little boy.
Foolish mortal.
There's a knock at her door. She assumes it's Aiden. She's incorrect. It is Professor Carr. And he looks around the damage of her room and expresses that it appears that she can't even control her powers in her sleep. That would be so embarrassing. I would be very, very red in the face.
And we know Violet's pale because she grew up in the scribes, which is underground, so she never really saw a whole lot of sunlight. So I feel like she would redden very easily if she blushed.
But he will make comments that would definitely make me very, very embarrassed.
Right. I have weird thoughts about Carr that I'm interested to see what you think of.
Well, all right. Yeah. Taryn, he comes in and he already has his saddle on, and Violet's like, yo, what the hell? How did you do that? And Taryn says, as if I'd let them design something I couldn't figure out how to get on myself. Remember where you get your power from, Silver One. Like, damn, Dragon Dad, I love you. Like, oh, you're so sassy and grumpy. So fantastic. I love you.
Carr says, it's always intriguing to me how nature finds the balance. Violet responds, I'm not sure I know what you mean, Professor. Says, this kind of power found in one, so would you not call yourself fragile? Violet says, I am who I am. I bristle. I've never given this particular professor any reason to think of me as different. I just wrote, A, fuck off, Carr. B, I'm pretty sure he's a robot because he has no sense of sympathy or empathy outside of just viewing people as their signets.
Maybe he's a sociopath.
I would not put it past him, especially because he has no problem with killing cadets. So yeah. I don't think he views people as people. I think he's a robot. I just also wrote, I hate Carr.
Yeah, I'm not fond of him. I have a couple of things kind of on the topic of Carr potentially being a robot. Violet points out that, like, hey, you snapped a kid's neck. That was scarring. And Carr says, yes, well, he was in a considerable amount of panic, and it's widely known that intrinsics aren't allowed to live. I ended his suffering before he could see the end coming. I feel like he says this as if it's supposed to be like, I granted him a mercy. Do you find this to be merciful?
I mean, it's difficult for me because also we literally met Jeremiah in that scene, so there was no emotional attachment to that character at all. So if I were to try to put myself in the mindset of somebody raised to believe Navarre's values, somebody who follows the rules, who knows that to be an intrinsic is an instant death sentence, I still can't put myself in the place of Killer Robot from just the very, very thin line of him saying that it's a mercy and just that he couldn't see it because being an intrinsic, reading into people's minds, that aspect I can see it being a mercy, but I don't see Jeremiah's death overall as being merciful, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you there. We're like, I realize this is how things are in this world, but like, it doesn't, taking this innocent person's life does not feel like a mercy to me. It's just tragic and brutal.
I can't imagine getting conditioned to the point where that's acceptable and that you would view it in any other way. Carr says, losing an asset like you would be a tragedy for the war effort. Then Violet just thinks, an asset. It's just like, I don't understand. And I think this is also like part of him viewing killing Jeremiah the way he did as a mercy. Like, I just don't think he's empathetic at all. Like, he's so brainwashed. He's probably like done this multiple times. After so many times, he's just calloused to it. Like, I don't. And maybe that's why he views everybody as an asset versus a person in order to be the person that they can call on when they need to be taken out.
Yeah.
Still hope
There's
he
a lot
dies.
of death. Two very different reactions. Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure that
I'm
was
not
the I'm a
against
Big Kid
that.
Now tune, too. You can do it, too. It can do. For someone who doesn't watch TV, I know a lot of weird commercial jingles.
Hey, I understand.
They just live in my brain.
Yeah, so I also had notes about calling her an asset, and like it's made pretty clear that that's all any of these military assholes is going to see her as. And it already pisses me off so much. Like, I am fully anticipating the rest of the series to like go this way. Or like not like necessarily be the main plot of like Violet is only an asset and is being used in that way, but I can definitely expect there to be many more instances of people calling her and using her as an asset and not a person.
But the only reason why I would look forward to that plotline is just seeing her then prove them wrong and how delicious that will be. Delectable, even scrumptious. So he immediately says Carr is trying to give her advice. He says, keep your loyalties clear. You and Ryerson both have exceptional lethal power that any writer would be envious of, but together you would be a formidable enemy command could simply not afford to let exist. Do you understand what I'm saying? I was like, you just called her weak and now you're acting like she's the biggest fucking threat. So which is it? Also, are you personally threatened by her? Because threatened people make threats. I don't trust this killer robot. We had 2 different instances of lightning mentions on this page. So that brings us up to 22 if I'm also counting your extra shocker one. It says, what happened last night definitely isn't up for discussion. I'm like, too bad, so sad, because we're going to discuss it in this episode.
Yeah. Sorry, Violet.
Sorry, not sorry. So,
You got dick down good.
after reading the sex scene, knowing who has technically written this book on that very first page, like, if Jessenia is the one writing this book, does that mean she had to, like, hear from Violet all the sexy details of their interactions, and why is she detailing it in this book for us to read?
I forgot about that. Now I have questions.
You're welcome.
Oh god. Yeah. Nope. I forgot about that. That makes things a lot weirder.
But it also makes me kind of scared. If this is from Violet's POV, why is Jessenia writing all of it? Why not Violet?
I don't like these questions. I want to stop reading this book.
Once you do it, you must go through it, or else I blew it.
I would like to get off this ride.
Strapped in. Oh no, the seatbelt broke. Guess you're stuck.
Flying off the freaking roller coaster.
Zayden is helping Violet to wield by his and then some dirty image into her brain. I watched a podcast where they were discussing the chapter, and he was like, so is that, what's that called to be turned on by yourself? Or is it, I don't know if they necessarily understood, it's not just that, it's also the fact that she could feel how much he wanted her in the moment as well. I mean, it's also seeing yourself from a position you've never seen before.
Seeing yourself from someone else's perspective is like a whole nother level.
And like knowing on a visceral level how much they want you because you can feel it is totally different than like being told that you're hot or like, I want you, that kind of a thing, you know?
So I get the like feeling someone's desire for you. Lola, hi, I forgot you're in here. You want to come here?
Lola's never been on. At least
Yeah,
not
they haven't
in
seen
up
you, Lola.
close.
Look how cute she is. Oh, she's like, why are you what are you doing to me, mother?
Her eyes are huge.
Yeah, they're so big. You're so stinky. Yeah, basically there's another instance that I would be very embarrassed about.
So first off, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different mentions of lightning in this page alone. So that brings us, oh, smoosh! That brings us to 27 times brought up in this book so far.
Damn.
It says, images of me flood my mind. It's last night, except I'm somehow seeing it through Zayden's eyes. I just wrote, holy hot, Batman. Then,
okay, so like I said, Violet's blushing. Her cheeks are flaming hot. And Carr says, see, I told you. The last lightning wielder said it made them overheat. Now do it again. And Terran's just laughing. And Violet tells him, not a single fucking word out of you. And first of all, I love my fucking dragon dad for being such a little pain in the ass. But again, I would be just so freaking red, so embarrassed that even worse than like the comment he made before of like, you can't even control it in your sleep. Cause like to have to then relive last night's experience in front of another person, in front of a professor at that, in front of that professor at that, I would cease to exist.
That was also a favorite. I just wrote, this whole interaction is perfect. And I highlighted a little bit more of that same part where she thinks as Aiden, I can't believe you just did that. It's like, you're welcome. My cheeks are flaming hot as I lift the back of my hands to my skin. So she's like, oh, that was hot. And he's like, see, I told you. The last lightning wielder said it made them overheat. Darren, chortle. Chortle is such a fun word. I hardly ever
Yeah.
hear it. It's great.
It's a good one.
So Violet releases and creates lightning strike on purpose and says, well, look at that. I am a certified badass. It's like, yeah, you is.
Yeah.
Alrighty, shall we get into chapter 31, our last chapter of this stretch?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So this starts at the beginning. We're back in Violet's room, cleaning up the day after, when Zayden appears. So it says, somehow, this is Zayden, somehow I'd convinced myself today that we hadn't done that much damage. But yeah, he looks at me and we both crack a smile. And Violet says, look, this doesn't have to be awkward or anything. I shrug, trying to ease the tension. We're both adults. It says his scarred brow rises. Good, because I wasn't gonna make it that way. I'm just like, is this just Violet feeling like it's awkward herself? And so she's vamping because she herself feels awkward. And Zayden's just over there like proud that they did so much destruction during sex. He's just like, yeah. And she's over there like, he's like, what vibes are you picking up on? I wasn't gonna make it awkward. Why are you making it awkward?
I can see it being that way. I can also seeing it being the cheesy, like, good, because I wasn't going to make it that way.
Yeah.
Like, they're both embarrassed about it and being shy. But yeah, and either way, I could definitely see him being like, yeah, I did that. Because I would be like, yeah, I did that. I would be so fucking proud. Just going right off of that while they're talking about it. Zayden says, I swear it didn't look quite that ruined in the darkness when I left this morning. Turns out you set more than a few trees on fire last night, too. Took 2 water wielders to get them out. And in my notes, I just put, God damn, not Violet putting lives at risk to get her rocks off. How many people are gonna die when every time she has a fucking orgasm? Oh my God. You're lucky it's only trees this time.
And not only that, it wasn't just outside, it was also inside. Like,
he's gonna die.
Maybe that's why Zayden keeps saying she's gonna be the death of him.
That's all.
So they're cleaning up the books that had fallen off the desk when they were doing the nasty. He leans down and picks up my favorite book of fables, the one Mira slipped into my rucksack once we'd gotten back to Montserrat that night. And I was like, Mira did give it to her, because they talk about it when they're at Rhiannon's sisters, but then we never hear anything about it. So I'm like, oh, she got to.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because I also noticed like, hey, you didn't bring this up again. What the hell? Where's the book?
Where's the book, Rebecca?
You made it sound so important. Chekhov's book. Give me book.
There's also one more lightning reference. Specifically, it says the first strike. So that brings us up to 28, including your BOGO one. Then it says, so Violet essentially calls him an asshole for what he had said on the flight field before, in front of Dane. And he said, yes, I told you what I thought you needed to hear to get through the moment. I know you don't like other people to see you vulnerable. And you, Violet finishes, were vulnerable. It's like he knows her so well. The fact that he's able to pick up on that, I don't think she's ever specifically said out loud to anyone that she doesn't like to be seen as vulnerable. So how does he know? Because I don't know if we've had an interaction of her doing that in front of him, unless it's more of like he inferred that because she's always just like trying to pick a fight with him. He's like, this little snot-nosed brat constantly trying to pick a fight with me.
This is the only thing I had for notes on this page as well. And I definitely marked it as a favorite because it also... It is so obvious to anyone, i.e. the audience, except Zayden, that he loves her. Like, she's even, picking up on it here and there. And yet he is so oblivious. So fucking oblivious. Or at least he pretends to be. But then he doesn't because he says shit like this. Boy.
Which is it?
You frustrate me. Stop being an ass.
This is the line that I had that supported my wondering if he noticed that she had vomited by touching her face. Like, there's a bit of sick there still. But it says, if it makes you feel better, I couldn't keep anything down after the first time I killed anyone either. I don't think less of you for having a reaction like that. Just means you still have your humanity. She references or says, tell me something real, like they did back in chapter 28. And it's one of those like callback phrases. And I'm wondering if this is going to be like their phrase going forward. I kind of hope so. I can't remember if it is, if I'm being honest. And so if it is, that would be nice to have like that little continuity between them. Like, plus, I think this is kind of a trope that I've seen, at least in media, not necessarily just in books. The whole like, tell me something real. And then, so she brings up, and he's like what? Which is also exactly what he said on the mountaintop. She's like where you went the night I found you in the courtyard. He's like, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. She said, you had Bodhi with you. It was right before the gauntlet. And I was like, first of all, how dare you forget that Garrick was also there? Second, this is the same night that Xaden tells her the right way isn't the only way. And that's all I put down physically in my notes. I'm not quite sure where I was going with that thought process, but maybe I was trying to give context, reference to it. It happened clear back in chapter 10. I referenced that. It is lost to the ether of my single brain cell mind.
Not always good for remembering things.
They notice that the Fables is split at the spine, and that there's a letter peeking out. Xaden ends up answering that they were at Athbean. You can't know why, or ask anything else, but that's where we were. Violet thinks, that definitely wasn't what I expected, but not out of the ordinary for cadets to run something to an outpost. So I put, interesting that she remembers Bodhi, then remembers that the cadets run things to outposts, but we know that Bodhi is younger than Xaden. Bodhi's a second year, and that third years are called out to Midland posts. So whatever rules they were breaking, Bodhi was especially breaking even more rules because he was a second year leaving the campus when only third years really have that privilege. So I just wanted to point that out, because why bring up Bodhi specifically when Garrick was also there? If not, then to like correlate those 2 thoughts, maybe.
Yeah. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. I
It's
think
just
I'm there with you.
a weird inconsistency I saw was like, where are these thoughts going? Or where could they possibly lead in future chapters if we know that Bodhi could especially get in trouble? Plus, we also just don't see enough of Bodhi in this book. I need more Bodhi.
Yeah, I feel like I don't really know the guy.
Yeah, other than that, he looks exactly like Xaden except softer. Makes me sad, because I'd like to get to know him. How are we going to have Violet use him as a rebound?
Exactly.
It says, I moved to put the book back and see that the binding is definitely worse for wear after we knocked the antique tome off the desk last night. Damn. I open the back cover and see that it's split at the binding. Something is peeking out. And I know I've quoted this before, back when Mama Sori and Daddy Hatos were questioning Violet about Papa Sori's research. But back in chapter 18, Violet references the archives smell like parchment, book binding glue, and ink. They smell like home. So I'm wondering, is this in reference to him putting this letter in the book, and that's why she correlates bookbinding glue with Papa Soaringale and not research, or is it a tie to both?
I would think it'd be a tie to both, like a little nod of like, hey, keep an eye on this. Bookbinding is an important clue, like a little bit of foreshadowing, but mainly being that like that is what the scribes do, is they write everything down and they bind them into books. Or at least I assume so. Maybe I'm making assumptions, but that's what I interpreted, I guess. Because like even our dad, I think it had stated that he had written or was writing a couple of books.
We know he has research about feather tails, but then it makes me also wonder if he hid this letter inside the binding. Does that mean he then put this book together himself? Does that mean that's why it's not in the archives, is because he created this book himself? It's not hard to make a book look antique to weather it down. Like, maybe it's not as old as she thinks it is.
Like, I definitely assumed, oh, he tore open the binding to specifically hide it. But I didn't consider that, like, yeah, maybe he just wrote the damn thing.
Right?
I don't know. So basically, like, the entire letter feels like foreshadowing, and it's ominous as fuck. What the fuck, Dad? What the fuck, Papa? Sorry.
I love that this is his new name now.
Yes. Remember that folklore is passed from one generation to the next to teach us about our past. Hint, hint, wink, wink. If we lose it, we lose the links to our past. Hint, hint, wink, wink. It only takes one desperate generation to change history, even erase it. Hint, hint, wink, wink. I know you'll make the right choice when the time comes.
Also, this seems pertinent and important. So why hide it, not knowing when she'd be able to find it? Like, she could have probably used this information sooner.
Right? Because, like, what use would he have in hiding it? in a book, because like we know because she was going into the writer's quadrant that she couldn't take a bunch of stuff with her, but like he was still assuming she's going to be a scribe, so like you would think that there wouldn't be a limit on the number of books she could take. Interesting.
Yeah. Just more questions on it.
Give me answers, Rebecca.
Immediately after she reads the letter, she passes it to Zayden, and I found this profound because it's a personal, private letter, and without provocation, she just hands it over like, here, you can read it. Like, I want you to know I'm an open book, and especially as we get into a little bit later in this scene, how quickly he closes off to her. It just kind of, it read very true to Violet and how, where she sees them and their relationship before she's even admitted anything, it's like, I already want to include you in my life. Here's a personal letter. Feel free to read it, kind of a thing. You know, like it was a show not tell moment. She admits when Zayden reads the letter, he's like, that's cryptic. And she's like, he got a little cryptic in the years after Brendan died. I admit softly, losing my brother made my father even more reclusive. I only really got to spend time with him because I was always in the archives studying to be a scribe. So then I put more questions, but proof that she spent so much time with Poppy Sori in the archives, and then would associate then him in archives at home.
So I'm seeing some more parallels to Harry Potter. The three brothers, one of the fables being in this book of fables, which is giving big signs that it is the key to solving the puzzle kind of thing in Harry Potter. Not that Harry Potter's the only one to do it, you know, but like it's combined with the other things is given Harry Potter, especially the fable being about three brothers who fought to control the magic in this mystical land. I'm not mad about it. I just think it's
Fun? Like a cool nod?
yeah.
And I did highlight Violet can be very assumptive in her thoughts. Like, these are her personal thoughts, and she just thinks everybody else thinks the same way she does. And it makes me giggle a little bit because I'm like, oh, sweet summer child. But it says, no one wants to become a venom. They're the monsters that hide beneath our beds when we have nightmares. And we certainly never want to try to control magic without a dragon to ground us. But that's all they are, children's bedtime stories. So why did my dad leave me this cryptic note and hide it inside the book? It's just like, Violet, you don't know. Some people, like, just because it's the most logical choice and that's what you believe doesn't mean everybody else is going to believe that same thing. I could easily see a number of people, even within the War College, that would be easily tempted by this if it meant they could have more power.
Zayden flirtatiously suggests they spend the night together again. And Violet says, no.
No.
No. You said don't fall for you. And she thinks to herself, I'm already too emotionally involved to separate out the sex, no matter how phenomenal it is. Being in mind that she's only 20, in my personal experience, cheers to her for being able to recognize that, because I definitely didn't when I was that age, and it traumatized me significantly. We love an emotionally intelligent main character.
And I wrote in my notes about it, the emotional maturity of the scene gives me life. Violet says what she thinks and is open and honest, and especially in the face of someone who is the opposite in that regard, it's brave. It says, he really does have an incredible body, but he doesn't get to dictate what I do with my heart.
Yes.
I was like, this back and forth, like them both stubbornly holding their boundaries, but still trying to push the other to kind of give in to like the tension is scrumptious. Also, I think it's really funny because Violet couldn't handle the awkward tension at the beginning of this chapter. Hi, baby. Yeah, I know.
Hi, buddy.
Uh-huh. Is it dinner time? Is that why you're crying? You have 5 minutes. You go bug dad.
No.
Okay. You can hang out here, I guess. I thought it was so funny that she couldn't navigate this possibly self-made awkwardness earlier in this chapter. But now that they're like pretending that they're gonna forget about the sex that they had, I'm like, so you can navigate this tension but not the other tension? Okay. I'm here for it, but okay.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's a mystery. Although, on some levels, I do get it, because sometimes I'm very, like, confident and, like, brazen, shall we say. And other times, I'm just like, I've never had sex before. What do you mean? Sometimes I just feel very shy.
That's fair. This is the lunchtime mind flirting.
Psychic flirting, psychic flirting.
It's my favorite kind of flirting. I wish we could do it in real life. But I wouldn't want to be able to have the capability to do that to anybody. I would need some sort of parameters. Like, if I could do that with Dan, I would be a nuisance. I go to work to get away from you.
Oh no.
He has never once implied that.
I know. I understand. No, see, because I get the opposite. I'll say things like that to Aaron. He's like, yeah, you're super fucking annoying. It's why I love you. Like, I like that. Please annoy me. I don't want to be annoying, but I guess thank you. Like,
Another lightning reference. So that's 29 this episode alone.
that's a lot.
Overall, we're sitting at 48 for the whole book. Times that lightning has been mentioned.
Liam sets his glass down and glances between Zayden and me, shaking his head as he fights a smile. I'm like, yeah, Liam knows what's up. And in my notes, in my head canon, it's just like Zayden and Liam like staying up all night, like giggling and like sharing every detail,
Kicking their
like
feet.
schoolgirls, and just like kicking their feet, and like that is how I wish to picture this.
He'd have to be completely oblivious not to, considering he helped Zayden and Garrick move in the new armoire. I'm like, how many people know y'all fucked? I loved this little moment. So, at least Garrick and Liam, for sure, keep a track of all the people who know that they be fucking.
Keeping notes.
So you're in the inner circle now. Check out the end of this scene. The second time he says, going to be the death of me, and I was like, stop it.
Yep, I put in my notes, bitch, I know, stop reminding me.
This is the battle brief mental jealous scene. It says, we're only 10 days away from graduation, and I'm counting every single one of them. That's when we'll find out how far Zayden is being sent from Basgaya. Most brand new lieutenants are given midland posts, manning the forts along the roads that lead to the border outposts. But someone with Zayden's power, I don't even want to think about how far he'll be. But I did find his supporting evidence in chapter 8. They're talking about Sigale. This is when, I think it's the first time they're in Kaori's Dragonkind class. And he says there are a handful of other blues in active service, but you'll find them all along the Esmond Mountains in the east, where the fighting is most intense. And I was like, is the most likely place that Zayden would get sent? Because a midland post, with how powerful Zayden is, and then also knowing the dragon he has, seems unlikely. And that makes me sad if he's gonna be stationed that far away. How's that gonna work with Tairn?
Yeah. Please don't separate my dragon parents.
We get our first and only for this section of chapters, Sadie Prickle. That's the first time and only time in this session, but that's the 13th time it's happened overall.
For me, I just had, oh my god, the psychic flirting.
Psychic farting?
Flirting.
Can you imagine if you could fart psychically?
Who says you can't? Some people can fart on command.
How would you do that in your brain? To somebody else that you're talking to in your brain, in their brain.
My brain is not charged enough for this conversation. Let's move on.
Violet thinks about Zayden, or even friends, though the constant ache in my chest tells me it's gone far beyond that. It's like, oh, he's in love. I also highlighted, now I understand why he takes his job so seriously. He shoulders the responsibility for every marked one in here. And I was just like, too much responsibility. Good thing he got them big, strong shoulders.
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 So Violet getting a little jealous here. She's thinking to herself, surely he's not relieving this sexual tension that stretches taut between us with someone else. And then gets real ballsy when she straight up fucking asks him psychically, is there someone else? I wouldn't have, like, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't want to know.
See, I would want to know, but then I wouldn't be happy with the end result regardless.
Devera has interrupted Violet's train of thought by complimenting Dane, which is the worst fucking thing to do. Violet thinks, oh god, Dane's ego is going to be unbearable today during sparring if Devera keeps complimenting him. And I put in my notes, oh dear gods, please no, don't do this. He already talks too much. He already needs to shut up. He already thinks too highly of himself. I love that Zayden just bursts out her name, just Sorengale, and then has to, like,
Cover up.
Yeah, and I know they just put, oh, smooth recovery.
I literally wrote that too. I said, haha, kind of serves you right, but also smooth recovery.
Nice.
Dang breaks.
It did amuse me. Devera is letting them all know it's reunification day, wear your dress uniforms. She lifts her brows at Riddick. He shrugs. What else would I be wearing? One never knows what you'll come up with, Devera says, dismissing us. That's my boy.
Liam asks, what are scribes into, seeing as you were almost one of them? And I was like, why are you asking Liam? Huh? Is there maybe a certain scribe you're wanting to impress tonight? Is it just Cynthia?
I'll put the same thing in my notes, like, why you want to know, Liam? I think I know.
We get our one and only this session. Drink up, baddies. I hook my arm through his being Liam's, and lift my chin. I'm so sorry.
So the fucking king arrives, and he's described as having a purple sash crosses his doublet, pinned to his chest by a dozen medals he's never won from 100 battlefields he's never stepped foot on. Fuck this guy. That pisses me off a lot.
That's the exact same thing I highlighted, and I wrote, I hate him already.
King Tory beams. It's good to have a Sorrengail on lookout for us. You'll let us know if he decides to, I don't know, start another war. This man disgusts me. Vile.
Dane smiles as the king takes his leave, then glances over his shoulder, meeting my gaze and heading our way. I just wrote, here we fucking go. Then Dane cups her cheek. On the third paragraph, it says, his touch is gentle when he cups my cheek. This is the first of and only one of this session, the 9th time he's touched or attempted to touch her cheek overall. It says cheek, but your cheek's real close to your temple. This is the quote I tried to use on you at the beginning of the... So they skedaddle, and she tries to lose Liam. She's like, Liam, you know I adore you, right? He's like, well, that's nice. Go away. She's like, no offense, but I can fry this entire place with a lightning bolt if I want to, and I need to see Zayden, so go. So then Liam's like, I mean, your aim is shit according to you, but I get the rest. He's just probably goes to find Jacinia. I am maintaining he did. I don't know.
Yes, headcanon accept.
That was also the 30th, including your catch. That making that 49 overall, like lightning references in the book.
The very last line, for the first time since last year, I step up onto the parapet. And in my notes, I just have, we've come so far.
Should we get into our favorites real quick?
Yes. Is Andarna, and she says to Violet, I'm proud you're mine.
Sweet angel
so
baby.
Sweet. Yes.
So it's when Rhiannon's walking away with Violet. And she's like, you two have the weirdest relationship. Violet says, we're not in a relationship. Then a couple paragraphs down, Rhiannon responds, you're most definitely in a relationship. I just can't figure out if it's the opposites attract partnership that has you two bearing claws, or the slow, lethal burn of scalding sexual tension. Do not wallow in guilt, Silver One. Whatever you feel is natural. Allow yourself to feel it, but then let it go. That's just really good advice, man. Yeah. When Zayden shows up and he's like, are you imagining that's me? She's like, no, but it was you about 20 minutes ago. So then why are you here, Zayden? And he responds, because I can't seem to stay away. And I just wrote, I'm a puddle. Zayden telling Violet, just because you gained power today doesn't mean you lost agency. We love it. Come on, he whispers, show me what you've got. I surge up on my toes and kiss him. Put wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There's a war in his eyes that I'm determined to win. I just really like that. My world narrows to this kiss, this minute, this man, mine. In this moment, Zayden Ryerson is mine. Or maybe I'm his. Who fucking cares as long as he keeps kissing me? All he needs is one little push. And I'm about to shamelessly show. Says this kind of desperation isn't natural. It's a wildfire that's likely to burn us both to the ground if we let it. And that's just an imagery that I really love, of like love and passion like a flame. Zayden says to Violet psychically, fuck, I'm never going to get enough of you, am I? And that's just, tomorrow is soon enough for regrets. There's just something very poetic about it that I really enjoyed. Sure, I'll give it to you. I don't know. I just like the way it was written. Yeah, fair. Her talking to Taryn, so once they've gone out to practice with the car, she says, don't leave me. And Taryn says, never. I'll burn him alive before he takes a single step toward you. Yep, that was mine too. And in my notes, I put, don't touch his kid. I wrote, and I cry. When Car's asking about, because she says she doesn't know how to do the lightning, but that she was emotional each time. He's like, and both times were the result of emotional reactions. Terrence snorts and I smack his foreleg with the back of my hand. Yes. So then Terrence says, should I get the wing leader? And he flat out laughs in her head. She's just like, shut up.
Where Xaden tells her there's nowhere in existence you could go that I wouldn't find you, Violence.
Violet trying to switch the subject. She's like, so which mess should we tackle first? Xaden says, I have a better idea of how to spend our night. And I was like, I bet you do.
Yeah, boy.
Says, I swear I can actually see the man building his defense against his own feelings. You don't really know me, not at my core. She thinks, and whose fault is that? So then she says out loud, I know enough, I argue softly, and we'd have all the time in the world to figure it out if you'd stop acting like such an emotional chicken shit and just admit that you're going to fall for me too if we keep this up. And emotional chicken shit is my favorite line, I think, in this whole book so far.
It's great. It's such a good. Oh,
And also just like her defiance in like, you'll fall in love with me too. Do not count me out. Like, I'm a hot commodity.
her whole monologue of you don't get to dictate how I feel.
Xaden says, besides, with all that pretending, I'm sure we'll eventually forget last night ever happened. Violet retorts, I never figured you for a liar, Xaden. It's just more of her like, A, snarky comeback, but B, hers like standing up for herself and believing like in her, I guess, her capacity to be loved that I just loved. Because it's very much like, I'll forget about you. And she's like, you can't forget about me. Please.
Silly boy.
silly boy.
That we talked about with their psychic flirting of the don't look at me like that and the eye fucking.
She mentally blurts, take me to bed. Xaden says, it might be awkward in front of all these people. And Violet responds, might be worth it.
So she's trying to get to Xaden, and Garrick and Bodhi are there and like, hey, give him some space. We're not even out there. We're his best friends. And Violet starts off with, yeah, well, I'm just his.
I just wrote,
Melt, I melt. I'm goo, I melt.
Let's get into our song dedication, shall we?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my first song I picked for chapter 29 is Damocles? I think that's how you pronounce that, by Sleep Token. The core of Violet's dilemma this whole chapter has been coming face to face with who she wanted and thought she would be and accepting her new place in this world. The song just fit too perfectly with that theme. Also, I have not meant to, but they've been releasing singles and that literally come out like the same week that we've been recording, and they usually just like fit so perfectly, and I don't know how it's happening. It's weird.
That's funny.
Kismet. It's
beautiful.
Some standout lyrics were, when the river runs dry and the curtain is called, how will I know if I can't see the bottom? Come up for air and choke on it all. No one else knows that I've got a problem. What if I can't get up and stand tall? What if the diamond days are all gone? And who will I be when the empire falls? Wake up alone and I'll be forgotten. And nobody told me I'd be begging for relief, when what is silent to you feels like it's screaming to me. Well, nobody told me I'd get tired of myself, when it all looks like heaven but it feels like hell.
I like that. The song that I chose for chapter 29 is Killer by Stand Atlantic. And it really kind of gave me the vibe of all three of these chapters of her feeling guilty about being a killer, but then also like the lustfulness of, them getting it on. And then like in chapter 31, like the longing she has and like really that they have for each other, but somebody doesn't want to admit it. Anyway, and some of the lyrics that stood out for me were, got me running low on self-esteem, treat me like a little amphetamine. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm naked for your sanity. I'm a killer, killer, killer. Got a little taste of my own medicine.
Chapter 30. I went a little bit different with this. There are like almost direct lines that were in the song that are also in this scene that I feel like pointing out. The song is Shameless by Camila Cabello. I really had to think about that for some reason. Her name's a bit of a tongue twister for me. So the standout lyrics are, don't speak, no, don't try. Violet says, shut up and fuck me, Ryerson. Been running from it for the longest time. They both are just running from their feelings. Right now I'm shameless. The line, and I'm about to shamelessly shove. Not afraid to face it. Violet thinks, I'm done fighting it. Lyric, I need you more than I want to. Violet says, I need you now. Lyric is, now that you have me, do you want me still? Violet questions, unless you don't want me. the lyric, and I'm tired of loving somebody that's not mine. And then that whole quote, in this moment, Zayden Ryerson is mine. And there's this like breathier part that's said in the song that says, distance, inches in between us. I want you to give in. Weakness, tension in between us. I just want to give in. The line I had that correlated with that in the book is, it's time to stop dancing around this unbearable tension. And then the last standout lyric was, and I don't care if I'm forgiven. 2 different times, Zayden says, it might damn us both. Then Violet says, I don't care if it damns us. I was like, this song just feels like this sex scene.
Yes. For chapter 30, I chose the song You Turn Me On, But You Give Me Depression by Lolo. And there were a lot of lyrics in this song that I felt really kind of fit the situation, but some of them that I really related it to were take me to heaven, put me through hell, give me attention, then throw a wrench in all of this tension. I might just be a masochist. I'd let you eat me alive. You call me up. I can't resist. I swear that I could punch a hole through the wall with all this pent-up aggression. You get me so damn high, I need an intervention. You turn me on, but you give me depression.
My brain started to autofill lines that you were saying. So in the I'd let you eat me, my brain turned alive to out.
You know what? It's not
Inaccurate.
inaccurate for this chapter. Yeah.
So chapter 31, the song I picked is F You in My Head by Cloudy June. Need I say more?
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, no standout lyrics for this one. Just it's specifically the scene in the lunchroom.
For chapter 31, I chose The Death of Me by Mariana Trench, which again is just kind of perfect, and a lot of these lyrics fit really well. But some of the ones I picked to stand out were also, this is very much from like Zayden's point of view. I would give you anything if I had anything to give left, but the phantoms here will never have their fill. I don't want to walk away, but it's not fair to let you stay. Before you go, I just wanted you to know that I would love you if I could. But my unsteady heart's not ready, and you would only get what's left of me. Only this is gonna be the death of me. Which is also one of my like favorite songs on that album.
Yeah. I was having a hard time not like singing along as you were saying. That's right? A good choice.
It's
so good. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this week's episode.
We are so excited to be on this journey with you.
Haven't had enough puss yet? Stick around for the bloopers and join us next week as we discuss everything that happened in chapters 32 through 35.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Bound to Be Bad Podcast.
And while you're at it, please be sure to leave a glowing rating and review on Audible or Apple Podcasts. It not only helps us grow, but plays a huge part in the growth of any podcast you listen to. So share the love.
Know a fellow book baddie who can't get enough of the Empyrean series either? Share us with a friend to give them something to hold on to till the next book release, because who knows when that will be.
Till then, we'll be here, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye!
Bye!
Okay. Oh, we're already recording.
You got distracted by having to pull it up. I lied.
Why are you lying?
Why you
always lying? Same brain cell.
God damn it.
I love you.
I love you.
I love us.
I do love us more than I love you.
I understand.
I love us together.
Yes.